He was fired from his own company, but came back stronger than ever. This is the story of Steve Jobs, the genius who changed the world twice. You might be going through a tough time right now, but trust me, things can get much worse. Imagine being homeless, having no job and no money. Well, that's exactly what happened to Steve Jobs after he dropped out of college. But Jobs wasn't your average guy. Even though he had no qualifications, no experience, and no money, he managed to create one of the most valuable companies in the world from his parents' garage. And then something incredible happened. After years of hard work and many sleepless nights, Jobs was finally ready to launch his very first computer. It was called the Macintosh, and it was unlike any other computer on the market. It was user-friendly, had a built-in mouse, and a unique black and white design. On January 24th, 1984, the first Macintosh was presented to the public. And even though it didn't look like much, it was incredibly advanced for its time. In fact, it's considered to be the first personal computer with a true graphical interface. But even though the Mac was a huge success, it wasn't enough for Steve Jobs. He wanted more. He wanted to change the world. Unfortunately, Jobs' ego got the better of him, and he started clashing with Apple's management team. And in 1985, after a boardroom coup, Jobs was fired from his own company. Everyone thought he was finished, but he had something to prove. So Jobs left Apple and founded a new company called Next. But while he was trying to make a comeback, Jobs took some time off and visited a small animation studio called Pixar. He offered to buy the company, and everyone accepted except for one man named Ed Catmull. Catmull was the head of computer graphics, and he turned down Jobs' offer. But after some convincing, he agreed to join Jobs at Next. Together, they created some of the most iconic animated movies of all time, including Toy Story, A Bug's Life, and Monsters, Inc. Meanwhile, Apple was struggling. Their products were outdated, and they desperately needed a new direction. And in 1997, the board of directors reached out to Steve Jobs and asked him to return to the company. It was the chance of a lifetime, but Jobs had already rebuilt his life and moved on from Apple. However, Jobs agreed to come back on one condition: that he would be in charge of the entire operation. Apple's CEO at the time, Gil Amelio, stepped down and handed over the reins to Steve Jobs. Together, they launched a new version of Apple's website and invited people to come see the new iMac. It was an all-in-one computer with a colorful, translucent design, and soon became one of the best-selling computers of all time. But Jobs didn't stop there. He went on to create some of the most iconic products of all time, including the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad. Each product was carefully designed by Jobs and presented to the world in a spectacular fashion. What's even more amazing is that every single product presentation followed the same formula. First, Jobs would appear on stage alone to the tune of "Here Comes the King." Then he would start by thanking his team before launching into the features of the new product. And finally, there would be a dramatic reveal of the product's name. But behind the scenes, Jobs was battling a different kind of enemy, pancreatic cancer. Jobs underwent surgery, but he kept it a secret from everyone, including his own family. For the next 8 years, Jobs continued to work tirelessly until his health started to deteriorate. On October 5th, 2011, at the age of 56, Steve Jobs died. When someone has the courage to take the road less traveled, they can change the world. Steve Jobs didn't let his circumstances define him. Instead, he used his experiences to fuel his passion and change the world twice. So whenever you're feeling lost or don't know what to do with your life, just remember to stay hungry, stay foolish, and don't settle for mediocrity. Thank you for watching.